Hey guys, so today I will be showing you how to achieve this extra super duper long extravagant train on a fabric that has a pattern that only goes one way. To answer two questions, yes, I will be doing voiceover, which I know sucks, but my house was so busy when I did this dress. And yes, the dress in the picture is the actual dress that I'm doing in the video. So yeah. I want to give a special shout out to designer Andrew Roberts. He's actually who I learned how to do the long bottom from when the fabric isn't long enough or wide enough to fold. This will be a 4-panel method of that. Okay guys, so for this train that I'm doing, I am going to be using 4 panels since I have a fabric that has a design that goes one way and I want it to be vertical. So what I'm going to do, the easiest way to think about this is if you have 4 squares. At the corner of one side of one of your squares, you're going to take your measuring tape and put it at the point. You'll use the chart that I'll attach to this video and measure whatever measurement equates to your around knee, or in my case, I go a little bit above the knee. Whatever that measurement is, that is what you're going to cut. This is the chart. If it's too blurry to read, I will attach the link as well. You will use the measurement in the last column, which is the full circle column. For example, let's just say the around the knee measurement is 24 inches. You will use the measurement of 3 3/4 inches to measure from the corner of your square. So you do that and you cut out kind of a quarter circle or arc, I guess you could say. Now what you're going to do, depending on the length that you want your train to be, she wanted hers extremely long. I think it was like 50 inches or something like that. You're going to go from the cut that you just did to the length that you wanted, and you're going to cut all the way around your square. I'm not trying to keep y'all here all day, and voiceovering is really weird for me. So what I'm going to do is just fast forward it so you guys can see. All right. Now this technique will work with just about any printed fabric, any fabric that has a print that goes one way and you want to keep it vertical or horizontal, however you want to keep it. But I would not recommend doing a 4-panel with a solid fabric because then you'll have an awkward seam going down the middle. What I would do is cut out my 2 back pieces first and simply lay them on the fabric and use them together to cut out one extremely wide piece for your front. So you'll end up having 3 pieces in the end. Okay, so I actually have a fierce tip right here for you guys. To make it easy, you can just take your fabric, line it up at the top right here, straighten it out at the bottom and use that to cut. It actually seems a little bit easier and a sure way to get an even cut. If you think it's easier doing it the other way, then feel free to do it that way, whatever works for you. Okay, so on this part, I am showing you why I cut it the way I did. This fabric has the glitter print going horizontally, which it's not enough fabric width for me to be able to cut it that way. So I cut it this way so I could still have it going vertically in the front and in the back. So now I'm just straightening my fabric out so I can cut the other side of my front, which I'm basically just going to use the piece that I already cut as a pattern and cut out my other piece. So now I'm going to take and line up where my middle seam in the front will be And I went to the other side of my fabric. Now, if you are an avid sewer, then you already know that cutting pattern pieces is kind of like playing Tetris. You gotta make it fit, and you want to utilize the least amount of fabric as possible. So now that I have everything straightened out, I am going to start to cut it out. This part is pretty simple, so I'm going to fast forward through it. Y'all, this is my little assistant Madison with the tape measure. I don't know why she stands on my fabric, but whatever. Okay, so now I am just taking that piece for the front and I am lining it up again. And I am going to use this to cut out both of my back pieces. Okay guys, so now what you're going to do is grab your tape measure and you are going to measure how much longer you want your back pieces to be than your front pieces. I think I did 50 inches in the front and I think I did about 60 inches in the back. Now keep in mind that if you're doing a pattern where the design is vertical and you want to keep it vertical, your back will be where your pattern is vertical. So I'm out of frame, guys, but basically what you're going to do is from the bottom of your front piece, you are going to measure the extra length that you want. Like I said, in my case, it's an extra 10 inches. So I'm going to measure that and I'm going to start to cut around. Now you are just going to simply eyeball it and cut at an angle to where it eventually meets up with the length of your front piece, since this will be the side. And I sped it up for you guys, but now you are going to take the back piece you just cut and use it to cut out your second back piece. Now we get to the fun part where we can actually begin to see our design coming together. Sewing machine time. I don't know if y'all hate cutting as much as I do, but I look forward to this part. Okay guys, so you want to grab both of your front pieces and you are going to find where the design runs vertical down the front. What you're going to do is you're going to take one piece and you're going to face it with the other one, making sure the tops are pinned together, meaning the part that will go around the knee, and you're going to sew from that part all the way down to the bottom. I would recommend, if you're a beginner, I would recommend pinning all the way down. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It really just depends on the fabric. So once you have it pinned, you're going to put it in your machine and you are going to sew a straight stitch with a stitch length of about 2 or 3 all the way down. Now this is still mesh, so you do not want your tension too high. I would leave it around about a 5. Now you can either do a zigzag stitch right beside that and then trim off your excess. If you have a serger, I would definitely serge this. Or you can also do another straight stitch about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch beside that. Now I'm just laying this out so you guys can see what it ends up being, just one entire half of a circle skirt. Now, if my pattern would have gone this way on my fabric, meaning if it had been wide enough for me to cut it in one piece like this, I would have, but I had to accommodate for the width of my fabric and the direction that my pattern was going. With the fabric laying here, you can kind of see the seam going down the middle, but because of the type of fabric this is and because of the pattern, once it falls, you will barely see it. So now I'm basically just going to take my back piece and line it up on top of my front piece with the right sides facing, which means the outside of both pieces will be facing each other, kind of like a sandwich. I'm just laying it down right here with my right sides facing each other so you guys can kind of see how it will be placed together. And you're going to sew down this side and you're going to sew down that side. An easy way to pin this would be to pin it while it is laying flat like this. That way you can get it as accurate as possible. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to pick it up and I'm going to put it through my sewing machine. So I skipped that part because it's kind of boring, and I showed you guys how to do that already when we did our front and our back pieces. So now I have my entire train put together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to locate my back, and you can tell what the back seam is because it'll be the longest out of everything. And I am going to find the back bottom of my skirt. And I am going to pin that together and then pin the remaining seams together and then pin in between. And what you're going to do is I like to flip my train inside out and I like to keep my skirt right side out. This way you can match them together with the right sides facing and it's easier to put it through the sewing machine. To find the exact middle of the front of the bottom of your skirt, all you have to do is put the two side seams together, pull the fabric out, and mark where that middle is. Then you want to match that up to the middle of your train. Okay, so how I like to sew, and it makes it so much easier to sew your train to your skirt, especially when you're doing tulle. I'll show you guys that in another video, but a lot of people like to sew, I like to sew along the inside. A lot of people like to sew along the outside, but that's more difficult for me. So what I do is on the inside of the skirt, I place it in my sewing machine and I sew a 1/2 inch away from the edge. Don't forget your back stitch. If you're doing a gown, I'm sure you know that already. And you just sew along the inside until you come back to where you started. Now I'm going to change to a zigzag stitch. I prefer to do a zigzag stitch with a short stitch length and a long zigzag length. So I'm going to do that along the edge just to reinforce my seams. Okay guys, so I highly recommend when you're doing the extremely long trains to use horsehair. And the type of horsehair that I prefer to use is either a 2-inch or 3-inch stiff horsehair. I have a 3-inch stiff horsehair here with loops, and I got this in bulk from eBay. I'm not going to go into detail about how to apply the horsehair or attach the horsehair because I do have a full tutorial on that on my page. It is for the horsehair, baby. It is for the horsehair with loops. However, you can use the same tutorial for horsehair without loops. Okay guys, so this is the final result and I absolutely love this dress. This was one of my most popular dresses this season. And like I told you before, you cannot see the middle seam because of how the fabric is printed and how the fabric drapes. So thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Tap that bell notification to be alerted whenever I post a video. All right, guys. Maddie, say bye.